So good morning, everybody. I'm glad we're together for Coffee with Common Cause. I think this should be a good one. We're going to cover, we always try to cover a bunch of different topics. We will share the slides when we do the follow-up. We've had different people, throughout our Coffee with Common Cause join us to talk a little bit about like what they're working on so that we have someone from Documenters with us today, and Morgan Harper is going to be talking about AEP or American Electric Power. And then we're also going to be talking about the Article 5 convention and that threat. So I'm so glad we're all together on this. And Mia, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I still do have folks joining, so I'm just taking a second to let a handful of people in here and more joining and more joining. So I'm just going to give it one sec. And then, Catherine,
Yeah, why
go
don't I just
ahead.
go over the agenda and then if, more folks are joining us, that's good.
Sure.
One, I just wanted to say, welcome to 2026. It's already been off with a bang. It's, been a hard year already, and it's good to be together with you all talking about all of the challenges and the different things that are going on. Yeah, I had lots of questions about, how to kind of keep up and keep going. And so one of the things is we're talking about all of these different ways to get involved. I just want to encourage you to think about all the different things that you can do. And at the end of the day, getting together with others and being supportive of your community is one of the biggest ways to keep your spirits up. And I'm super glad you all are here. I notice people are throwing, where they're from into the chat. I love that. Please keep it up. I'd like to see, where everyone is from. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start out talking about the documenters. Now, some of you may be familiar with this. They are in other communities besides Columbus, but they're entering Columbus, and so we want to talk a little bit about that. We've also talked about changes in voting law before. The last time we got together, we were urging you to ask the governor to veto Senate Bill 293. Kelly Dufour is going to cover that and some other voting things. Then the continuing saga of House Bill 6 and Householder. Then we're going to talk about Lights Out AEP. That'll be Morgan Harper. And then we're gonna, ICE in Ohio. Things have really changed. We'll also talk about the Election Integrity Commission, and the attack of Article 5 and what that could mean as a convention. And then we basically want some suggestions for like, well, where do we go from here? What are some ideas? We're also going to talk about some upcoming events, ideas, inspirations, and that kind of thing. And with that, Helen, are you available to start talking? We'd
Uh,
love to hear from you.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone here.
And this
Thanks
is
for
Helen
having me.
Maynard from Documenters. And
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you. I'm Helen Maynard. I'm community journalism director with Signal Cleveland. Signal Cleveland is a nonprofit news organization in Ohio. We are multimedia online, and we are powered by the Documenters. And so the Documenters program is something that was started in Chicago by a news lab organization called City Bureau. And City Bureau was trying to answer questions for neighborhoods. How do you get involved? How do you know what's happening? How do you even know where the meetings are and where the decisions are being made? And so that was the birth of Documenters. And so Documenters is a program that trains everyday citizens like you and I to document public meetings. So it's an entry point to journalism for anyone because telling stories and finding out truths is everybody's business. So the Documenters program has come to Ohio through Signal. The first Documenters program was in Cleveland or is in Cleveland. That's been going for 5 years, had the 5 year anniversary back in October. And we have program now in Akron and Cincinnati and now Columbus. So we're starting off small, but it becomes mighty. Documenters are paid $18 an hour to cover city meetings, county meetings, public meetings, using the open meeting laws and protections that are allowed for everyone, and the fact that any citizen can go to a public meeting. So we train documenters in a 2 to 3 hour, well, 2.5 to 3 hour training session where you learn about public meeting law and best practices for making notes for meetings. Again, we have documenters is open to everyone, and we have documenters from the ages of 16 to the ages of 88. So documenting is for everybody, and it is not a volunteer situation. You do get paid. In Columbus right now, we are doing city council, but we will expand and do other meetings. So what happens is once you do the training, and we have a training coming up on Saturday, February 21st from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You complete the training, and then we give you some time at the end of the training, or you can do it offline. You take a public meetings quiz. So we know you're taking in all the information, have all the information about what a public meeting is about. Then you'll have some paperwork to sign up, and well, it's not paperwork because it's online, but you'll need to fill out a couple forms online. And then after you do all that, that's gone through, been processed and completed, you'll get a badge that says you done documenter training on your profile. You get another badge on your profile that says you're ready to go, and then you're open to take assignments. It takes about, well, I can't say for sure. We are offering 2 assignments a week now when council is in session. We're going to add in more, probably board of zoning will be added next, and then looking at what other meetings we want to add in the Columbus area. Hopefully by June, we'll have a robust list of meetings. I don't have all the dates for future documenter trainings, but I know that we are planning them. We always do it 4 times a year. So we are planning other training in April. And I believe there'll be another training in August and then usually October. So we'll see. We may try to get another training in May, but it can't be certain. Just staffing and capacity. I'm sure everybody knows about that. So we're doing the best we can here. We've got the link there for you in the chat, and I'd like to take any questions if there are any.
Is it okay if we share your email in our follow-up? If
Oh, absolutely. You could share my email. And I'm also going to drop it in the chat.
Awesome. I think this is such a great idea. Uh-oh, Jackie's gonna document everything. Watch out, folks.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have, we do try to rotate through. So if when I see new people coming in the system, I try to give them a meeting as quickly as I can because we are have tight with a few meetings, but we're going to do more. So if you want, I see people say they like to do it. So it's great. Please sign up. I'm in Youngstown is only for people club is right now. We Yes, right now. So, documenters program use people in the city or the regional area that they're covering. So for now, yes, I'm sorry, Julia, it is only for Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Akron. But, I will register that, hey, I was on a call and this is someone else from Youngstown who's interested. So we'll keep that momentum going.
um, Ariel, you have a question. I am going to try to mute you. And so you should be able to now. Uh, were you able to unmute? Gonna try it again.
Yeah, hi.
Okay.
Do you have a website, Helen, where we can read more about the documenters?
Sure. Do we have that link in there? I'll put the
Yes, we'll send it out.
Yeah,
We'll
but
send it out in our follow-up.
it's documenters.org. And then when you're looking at the website on the left-hand side, it'll say our networks. If you click on that radial, that arrow, it will show all 31 cities, and then you just select Columbus, and you can read all of the documenters' work so far there. So I think somebody did ask, where does this go? Once the documenters' work is edited It is then published on the Columbus website, and anyone in the Documenters Network, anyone in the public can see it. You can send the link to your friends and family. Everyone can do that. Actually, we hope that you will share the link to Documenters, the Columbus site, or if you're from Cleveland or if you're from the Akron area, hope that you'll share that in your networks. The more people that see it, that's where you tell your funders when we're looking for support, hey, look how many people are reading this, how important it is to the community. I think someone else asked if there's opportunities to work from home. Most meetings are available remote. So we usually offer remote and in-person work. Columbus does a great job with their YouTube channel putting up the city meetings. So we'll see how that works for the county. I haven't really delved into that yet. But as long as the meeting is online, and you hate to say blessings out of COVID, but one of the blessings that did come out of COVID is that people started putting their meetings online and making them more accessible. And accessibility is fantastic. So yes, most of this work can be done from home. I think someone else asked, I'm trying to make sure I get all the question. Geauga County League of Women Voters is doing something similar. Okay, well, I need to touch base with them and see how things are working for them. Thank you guys for all the compliments for Signal when nonprofit news. It's so important now to have as many voices out here as possible. Trying to make sure I've caught all the questions in the chat. Any other questions here? Is it okay to take the training and cover meetings and not get paid? So we want you to be paid. I know there are some circumstances where people have to, when you retire, you have to monitor your income and things like that. So it's really important to us that the program was set up that way to be paid. So if you do not want to get paid, and this is a monetary thing, I mean, Sue, maybe email me so we could figure out because we don't want people to work without being paid.
I suggested get paid and then donate it to nonprofit media.
I mean, you can do that. I mean, but you just check with your tax folks and whoever. You wouldn't want anything to happen to anyone. And we have run into situations where people have had to stop documenting because they were doing multiple jobs and they were going to hit that threshold. But they took a break and came back. So maybe there's a way to do it part of the year. I don't know your circumstances, but if you want to talk, we can figure it out. But the best person to talk with is probably whoever helps you with finances because they can help you figure that out. But we really, really want people to be paid. It's so important. Um, did I miss anyone? Oh, Shaker League of Women was just like hard to. Yeah, Shaker League. I saw that we've been in contact with Shaker League of Women, Shaker League of Women Voters. They've talked with us. They were trying to do something similar to what we did. So we have some students from CMSD who were documenting. They documented for a semester. And so that was pretty awesome. They have a really strong government program, which is really cool, after school program. I think somebody else has their hand up.
Yeah, we let me try to get to that. There are a couple of questions about, how this differs from the Observer Corps. And let me just, unfortunately, I have to get to the right place to unmute this person.
I think a couple people asked what the pay rate is. I'm $18 an hour. So you can financially factor that in. It is $18 an hour. It is a 4-hour minimum. So we assume that it's going to take 2 hours for almost any meeting and 2 hours for you to put your notes together. Most people don't end up taking 2 hours to put their notes together. Sometimes meetings run longer than 2 hours. So it all then you'll get a meeting that's short. It all works out in the wash. If you go to the meeting in person, you get an extra $36, an extra 2 hours of pay for the idea that you have to get to the meeting. You've got to set yourself up and then you've got to leave from the meeting. So, city council, Columbus City Council is usually about an hour and a half, unless it's the end of the year before they're going on a break and then they're trying to cram everything in it. It's longer. But it all works out.
And I was going to say, Melinda was wanting to shout out Jake Zuckerman of Signal, Ohio. I just think that they're just some really good reporters. And so you should feel proud about being part of this. This is a wonderful community project.
Well, I'm glad that everyone has got so many wonderful things to say about Signal. So yes, there's an event. The idea is that the documenters, support the news and support the newsroom. So a lot of things that come up come from some of the, often things that come up come from documenters' work, things that they point out.
Hello, I have a question.
Okay, very good.
So, I'm in a rural area, so I wouldn't be going to any like the big city councils. So that's why I was asking, am I still able to take the training so that I can attend like the local public meetings in my county, um,
Sure.
just so that I could, know how to do that properly.
Yeah,
And
sure.
that
And
way
we
it's
do.
not paid.
Absolutely, Maria. We do have people who take the training. We had some people who are not in Summit County take trainings, take the Akron training so that they are able to better understand some of the meetings in their county. So that would be fine. You can sign up and then you could write that into why you're taking the training so that
Hmm.
we're like
Hmm.
we understand where you're coming from. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, and I see some people say they just like to learn how to document better to better understand a public meeting. So that's fine. We have documenters who've signed up for training who've never documented a meeting. Now we know that they've gone to meetings, but it's for themselves. They're bringing the knowledge back to their networks. They're bringing the knowledge back to where they live. And that's perfect too. There's no obligation once you're trained to document a meeting. So if you want to get this training, and you think, okay, I just want to know this, and I just want to learn this for myself or for my community, that's great.
That's awesome.
All right. And I know you guys have a busy meeting this
You too.
morning, so I appreciate it. If you have any other questions, you think of something when you get off or you've got something now, just go ahead and email me and I will make sure to get back to you. And I really want to thank you for inviting me and having me this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. This is super, super helpful and interesting. And hopefully you'll get some good documenters out of it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang on for a minute for your meeting and then I'm going to have to drop off probably
All
in
right.
about
I feel like if there's a good group of documenters, this is it. So, hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We are going to jump and back into to Senate Bill 293. So first, I wanted to say thank you for everyone's fight for the veto over the holidays. We sent thousands of actions and calls, and there were so many letters to the editors, and everybody was really circulating social media. Thank you for all of our efforts. And as many of you know, without supporting documentation, really public testimony, boards of elections consultation, Senate Bill 293 was changed from its original form, and it just sped right through both sides of the state house. It was, there was concurrence in late November, and then it took a few weeks, but Governor DeWine reluctantly signed it on December 19th. So we know that there's quite a few changes coming our way. I think we can go to the next slide. We know that there's quite a few changes coming. These changes will take effect or due to take effect on March 20th. We know that there's also a considerable amount of rulemaking that's coming and directives that the Secretary of State will put in place for the boards of elections. Everyone is now behind a time, on a time crunch for understanding what that is. And so, including the boards of elections. And so we're going to do our best in our circles to, follow this, try and educate ourselves and sometimes help educate boards of elections and then obviously the public. So here's what we know. We know that the Senate Bill 293 eliminates the 4-day window for accepted postmarked ballots after Election Day. This is the biggest hit. Well, I'm not going to say the biggest hit, but this is going to be the quickest change for voters. We know thousands of voters submitted ballots in recent elections that fell during this period, and those will no longer be counted. We will be working to heavily educate people that Election Day is the day for ballots to be returned to the boards of elections going forward. But it also creates a lot of procedural changes within the boards of elections and especially at the Secretary of State's office. And so I've just highlighted a few. We're still dissecting it. And we can't answer all the questions on how exactly everything works, but some of what we know is that it creates an ongoing system for citizenship verification after registration. So many of you were also helping us follow Senate Bill 153, which was a lot of change, a lot of other larger problems in terms of voting and election administration. And so they took some of the verification process from 153 and put that into 293. So the Secretary of State will then become responsible for verifying if someone is or is not a U.S. citizen. That responsibility will fall to Secretary LaRose right now. It codifies using federal databases for voter roll maintenance. So it instead of the Data Act from April, which said now we're going to start using BMV data electronically for routine checks, it's going to now use the BMV data in our state, but also the SAVE database for citizenship checks, the Social Security Administration database for Social Security and date of birth name matches moving forward. This is a very significant change and one that starts at the Secretary of State's office. From there, he will notify boards of elections if someone is flagged as not being a U.S. citizen, and at that based on his checking. So what I think we all have to keep in mind is we know that there can be data errors in federal databases, just like there can be errors in any database. And so unfortunately now if he determines that citizenship status is not there, the Board of Elections is required to cancel that immediately, and his election integrity unit will start an investigation. Now, much of this is already happening within this public integrity unit, where they have moved through under his office guidance to start doing this on a smaller scale or an initial work, and they come up with hundreds of flagged potential registrations to then start investigating. Confirmation procedures now, however, from his office will also include date of birth, driver's license, state ID, and last four of Social Security citizenship matches, and then any other information that's required. So if aside from the citizenship verification, if someone has a mismatched record from your voter registration with the BMV or with the Social Security Administration, then that voter will be flagged. That flag from the Secretary of State will create a notice requirement for the Board of Elections to send out to that registered person, and then they need to produce documentation to verify their information before they're able to vote. They will be put on provisional status, and we do now know that election officials shall challenge anyone with the non-citizenship designation on their license. So in the past year, everybody was wondering what happens at the polls if someone with a non-citizen designation on their license comes. They've been recently naturalized. They will still need to produce documentation on the spot in that case, or cure it within the 4-day period after Election Day. If someone, the disappointing part of this bill is that voters are required in what they're calling almost a risk management type of system now for voter registration to produce that information. And if someone votes provisionally and is not able to rectify their data mismatch discrepancy, they will be canceled. Their registration will be canceled. And so we know this is all very new, and I'm sure many groups and many lawyers are looking into this, and there will probably be a lot more information on this front. However, Mia, next slide, please. what we are going to do, we know we're going to work together and have a public information campaign. We work for the Center with the Center for Civic Design to create education materials that your groups can use. So we would look forward to having that in this next month, where we have templates that you can use to help folks understand some of the changes. We have available social media graphics now. This folder will continue to grow as the season goes on and we approach the primaries, where really if you're able to just help share information, that would be wonderful. We also have the Ohio Voter Rights Coalition also has an education committee. So if you're interested in joining that committee where we dissect some of this, I know a few of you are on this committee already, where we look through this and meet as a small group and talk about changes. If you've been a poll worker or if you're familiar with your boards of elections, we would love to have your input. Um, and then obviously we will encourage everyone, we'll get back into the State House next month and we can track and lobby for change, right? We want to identify bills like House Bill 400, which would establish a permanent absentee list. Um, we know it's a struggle at the state house, and so we won't pretend that it's not an uphill challenge, but we definitely want to call out legislators that are making good efforts to try and support voters and voters in this process. Next.
Sorry, I
We do.
hit a link. 1 second. Sometimes I hit a link and then it,
Oh, no worries.
uh,
Um,
I I did want to just pop in for 1 second just to make sure that folks saw that the one thing that 293 does, because it says that ballots are accepted as long as they arrive on election day, it doesn't actually matter if the ballot, if it arrives on election day, it doesn't actually matter if it has a postmark or it doesn't have a postmark. So we used to tell everybody, please go into the post office, make sure you get that postmark, et cetera. But now we're just saying mail your ballot early or drop it off at the Board of Elections, just because the important thing is getting it there on time. Doesn't matter about the postmark anymore.
Great, thanks, Mia.
Yeah.
Yes, there are so many updates at both the state and national level. We tried to put a couple together just so you're aware, but there will be more to come on much of this. But here in Ohio, it's important to point out that Secretary LaRose did launch what he's calling a multi-state election integrity network. He named it Alexa with an E. And what he had started in the last year or so were reciprocal agreements with states after he left ERIC, which was a national cooperative agreement with multiple states to share information and moves and keep voter rolls updated. After he pulled Ohio out of that, along with a lot of other states that left, he started individual agreements with these states. He is now up to 11 agreements. So there are 11 different states that are sharing information, our voter rolls with reciprocal secretaries of states. And what we need to make sure people are aware of is that now it's a question of our private data, and so on a national level, the Department of Justice is actually we'll say they requested voter roll information from every state. They are suing almost 24 states, I believe they're up to 24 states for unredacted full voter roll registration information. Ohio is not one of those at this point. There's also another set of states that are suing the Department of Justice for asking and requiring to be sent this data. So really, we're seeing a lot of the federal, we'll say, involvement, to put it nicely, shaping what is to come for this year. There was also confirmation that the Department of Justice, when they get those voter records, are sharing them with the Department of Homeland Security, further, moving the circular referencing of data forward in terms of citizenship checking on back ends. So currently, Ohio is participating with the Department of Homeland Security to use the information, but as far as we know, which I will qualify, we don't know that we have been told that they have not turned over our full unredacted voter rolls. So the Department of Justice is furiously working to collect as much information as they're really not entitled to. And similarly, we have other federal administration efforts to control and change and impact the upcoming elections. We heard in a recent report that President Trump said he should have seized ballots in 2020. So when he makes these public statements, obviously that's concern for voter advocate groups like ours. He did originally have that March executive order with a whole laundry list of changes of what he wanted to see change at the federal level for elections laws. And although much of that has been tied up in court, the states like Ohio have used that to say, oh, well, this is what, this is what the administration wants. So here's what we're going to move forward to do, like removing our 4-day window for election, for postmark ballots. So very frustrating at this time. The good news is that we heard an announcement in late November that President Trump was going to have a new executive order on elections. That we received notice this week that has been set back with the latest court ruling. So good to see slowing him down somewhat. Also on the federal update, as someone mentioned and Mia described, the United States Postal Service did update their postmark rules and clarified their postmark rules. But again, this will have no impact on us at this point since everything's due on election day. It will impact registration deadlines before an election. So we will again educate on that front. We also earlier last year worked on initiative for pushing back against the SAVE Act, the National SAVE Act, which was proof of citizenship in a much stronger way at the national level. And that is currently still stalled, which is good in Congress. But we have national partners keeping an eye on that. Someone mentioned last month, Bill, I believe, the Voter Purge Protection Act, which was introduced in October. And this was really to prevent against the Trump administration's attempt of use or lose your voter registration rights. And so another thing we'll keep an eye on. Next, please, me. I think this is my last one. So we know when we know President Trump says a lot of things, and we know a lot of those things move forward as federal efforts, whether the federal government has the right or not to do it. And so one of a prominent anti-voting lawyer, Cleta Mitchell, who also runs the Election Integrity Network, which we work against to preserve voting rights, she came out and recently said that we know his authority is limited, except when there's a threat to national sovereignty. And so she said, I think maybe the president is thinking that he will exercise some emergency powers to protect the federal elections going forward. So I don't think we should be surprised when we continually see that move forward. And it definitely is going to take all of us to stay on top of this, document what's going on. And then, so many national groups are working against fighting that in court. I did want to say that on our February 6th Ohio Voter Rights Coalition call, we will have a national experts from the Campaign Legal Center who's going to break down some of the voting rights, court hearings, and some of the progress, what's happening in that area. Also, some of the national updates that I know some of you want more information, are always looking for more information. So our partners are going to join and be much more helpful than I am in terms of articulating what's happening at the national level in the courts. You're welcome to register for the noon call. These will all be in the follow-up. And you can always email me at any time if you have questions or want to be involved. And I was not looking at the Mia, thanks for letting me know if somebody said something I missed in the thread, but
I think
thank you.
we're good. There's a chatting conversation, but not questions specifically. Jackie, I think the HB 400 will answer that separately. I'm not sure if it refers to early in person as well, but that bill is not very likely to move forward, so we can look into that. Can people check their DMV online for conflicts? That's a good question. I think it would just be what's on your license and, compared to what the BOE has. Um, yes, your registration is good for once you've registered, it's good for the next election, etc. Um, this is a lot of information.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you. And yes, to Bill's question, we'll get everyone more information next month. But for example, we don't even know if someone's flagged provisionally, if that will ever start showing up when we check our own voter rolls. So, our voter registration. So there's a lot we're going to learn, I think, in this next month. And we appreciate you just sending us questions, and we will try our best to look into those and get back to you. Thanks, Mia.
Yeah, I do want to just be real clear though, Krista, your license, the address on your license does not need to match your voter registration. When you go to vote, it does not, you are not expected to update your driver's license every time you move in order to be able to vote. It is the most common error that poll workers make, so it's not uncommon that someone is told that it has to match, but it actually doesn't have to match, not even with this bill, luckily, at this point. So that's an important thing to remember. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic. And Catherine.
So we've now come to the corruption portion of the program. Many of you will remember that Larry Householder was arrested, so the former Speaker of the House, for the House Bill 6 scheme. He and Matt Borges were arrested in July of 2020, sentenced in June of 2023. But we are finally, after all sorts, First Energy, the corporation has pleaded guilty. There have been fines. There's all of this clarity on what happened with the House Bill 6 scandal. Sadly, Sam Randazzo died as a result of suicide, in April of 2023. And so the two remaining folks on this is state charges are Chuck Jones, who was the CEO of First Energy, and Mike Dowling, who was a vice president, and his focus was on lobbying and legislative affairs. And the big kind of news this week was that their list of defense witnesses included Governor DeWine. It also included U.S. Senator U.S. Senator John Husted. For folks that are from Cincinnati, they will recognize the name of Bill Seitz. It included a PUCO commissioner, Daniel Conway. It also, it's a list of who's who in government and lobbying. And those are the defense witnesses. Now, this is a trial that'll take place in Akron. It's not something that we'll easily be able to watch, but I suspect we will be getting good information. It's one that we're going to be following really closely. And Mia, if you'll move to the next slide. I also just, wanted to let you know that we have this householder, House Bill 6 timeline that does include the whole scheme. We've called it for years the householder timeline, but it includes those First Energy executives. It also looks at things like what happened with the Public Utilities Commission. So a settlement was approved, which means that those folks that are consumers are going to be getting back $249 million, which sounds like a lot of money until you realize how many customers there are and the fact that they actually are already eyeing rates that are slightly higher. I think one of the things that I found interesting is that they actually had this agreement with the Retail Energy Suppliers Association. It's like this trade agreement where they agreed to refund money to them because they were not being good corporate partners with other energy suppliers. So I think one of the things that's clear here is First Energy is feeling it, but one of the things I think that is really challenging as we think about corruption, they got away with it. They managed, in many ways, yes, they didn't get their money for the nuclear plants, but they have managed to negotiate and find ways to keep going. And we need to keep watching them because they certainly, it's not enough just to have a black eye. They need to really feel the consequences to be reasonable, reasonable retailers of utilities, of our electricity. I'm saying this very badly. And then I wanted to go to the next slide, Mia. Also on the Borges and Householder update, many of you remember Speaker of the Ohio House, Larry Householder, of course, was the mastermind of the House Bill 6 scheme. Matt Borges came along later. Essentially, what he did is he ensured that the referendum was not successful. Borges is no longer in prison. Householder still is. They have been appealing and saying essentially that they did not engage in bribery. And I think the thing that's important here is that they're arguing that there was no explicit quid pro quo, meaning they didn't ever say, you give us 60 million, you give us $60 million. Some of it will benefit us personally. Some of it will help us gain power. Some of us will help us ensure that this whole thing works, that in fact it will influence public policy and we can lobby the public, all of the different things that they spent the money on. They're arguing that they were just engaging in their First Amendment rights, essentially, to talk about the need to actually bail out these nuclear plants. And so, they're asking the U.S. Supreme Court to revisit these two cases from the 90s. As many of you know, when you're engaging in misdeeds, and certainly when we think about dark money and the use of that dark money, we're talking about secret money and we're talking about secret agreements. And it's very hard to imagine how you would get anybody if you expected explicit quid pro quo where you basically have Larry Householder on tape saying, if you give me this, I'll give you that. I mean, it's just an incredibly ludicrous thing. The other thing that to keep in mind is Larry Householder is going to be going on trial in June. So there are state charges. Many of you might remember that he also used his campaign funds to defend himself on the federal charges, which is a misuse of campaign cash. So it's obviously his ethics violations that he did when he was in the state house, but it also has to do with his misuse of his campaign funds. He also didn't report some of the activities he was engaged in to the Ethics Commission or the Joint Legislative Ethics Commission. And so those are the charges in June. And then,
Catherine,
yes, Mia,
there was a question. Is the trial of Jones, CEO Jones and lobbyist at the federal court in Akron?
this is state court. These are state court charges, and
Okay.
it is the Summit County Common Pleas Court. The judge is Judge Baker Ross. So, and it is the kind of thing where when we think about, the the challenge of actually going after people who when they engage in these kind of misdeeds, when I go back and I think about like July of 2020 when Householder was arrested, and it said that company they had this whole graphic of all of the things, and you can imagine all of the different dark money nonprofits that were there. But also at that point, they called First Energy Company A. And so we're now, like a year later, then First Energy essentially the corporation pleaded guilty, but we're finally getting to the folks who engaged in misdeeds as corporate officers. Now, I think the thing that is interesting is that if the state had not charged them, the feds would not have done so. So this has continued because the state has taken it up.
Hmm. All right.
And this First Energy's corporate charter ought to be revoked. I feel that. I do. I feel that. Are there other questions I'm not answering?
I don't believe, well, Marianne says there are actions that we can take to help make us feel more empowered. We usually do include those. We will make sure to send something in our follow-up that everybody can do. And thank you for pointing that out.
And with that, maybe Morgan Harper, would you like to jump in and talk about American Electric Power?
Great. Yeah. Hi, Catherine. And hi, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm Morgan Harper. I'm the co-founder of a group called Columbus Stand Up in Columbus, obviously. And we focus on organizing a lot of working class voters in Columbus to engage in the political process, but also just advocate for better outcomes. And we've been involved in organizing around utility issues for the last couple of years. The first time in 2023. But in collaboration with Common Cause, we've been up to quite a bit towards the end of 2025 and then continuing into this year. So just real fast, and shout out to Mia for putting together, or maybe others
Catherine.
also on the, and Catherine, okay, on the Common Cause team for putting together these slides. I was very delinquent in getting any contribution, so all credit where it's due here. With just a little bit of background on AEP. I mean, if I could summarize, and this is, I think, important for us, or hopefully one of your takeaways from this little update is you can plug in any name here. I know folks are joining from all over Ohio. AEP is in Columbus, our local electricity provider. They have a pretty big footprint in Ohio, mostly in central and southern. But it's all the same dynamics, and it's kind of the same whether it's electricity utility or a gas utility. They have all had the greatest scheme for our lifetimes where they just kind of like make up numbers about how much it costs for them to do things. And then the state government has given them a blank check to continue to reward their shareholders on Wall Street. And the jig is up on that. As Catherine was pointing to, a lot of those dynamics are changing. I'm sure you all are seeing a lot in the national and local news about how much pushback there is now on utilities. And I think we have the opportunity in Ohio to really be on the forefront of some of that organizing and kind of showing a model for how people power can change the whole course of how these utilities are operating to really get them back on the side of their true mission, which is to consider the public interest in a lot of these rate cases. So anyway, but we'll use this AEP example that we're involved in as a model for what's going on, and hopefully you'll be able to find local examples that you can plug into as well. AP is making a lot of money. So that's the gist. And while they continue to go to ratepayers, folks that are paying electricity bills, they are recording record profits. They have CEOs that, because AP Ohio is part of a large conglomerate, lots of subsidiaries nationally. And those executives at pretty much every level are making a lot of money too. So they very easily could just be drawing from those profits or drawing from the big bucks that they're giving their executives instead of continuing to go back to all of us as consumers and asking for more money, even if you accept that they need the money that they claim that they do to manage our electricity delivery. Next slide. Oh, actually, I forgot one thing. Oh, and I did update, but it was too late.
I
Okay, it's fine.
know, sorry.
It's
I
okay.
just
It's
see
okay. It's
that
a good guide for me. No, it's all good.
I can pop out of the slides and refresh and it'll come up.
Okay, if it's easy, but no
Yeah,
worries.
no
So
worries.
so right now we have AEP Ohio has last year made a request to again increase electricity prices. These are called rate cases. Uh, they're happening pretty regularly, and especially over the last few years, in part because of what's going on with data centers. But I really think it's important for all of us to know it's not just because of data centers. This has all been going on, for decades. The data centers are just kind of exacerbating the problem and the pressure on the grid. But AEP made one of these requests last year. And so, in partnership with the Ohio Environmental Council, Columbus Stand Up was able to put together some organizing to try to get more of the public involved in this rate case. For every rate case, utility has to, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, which regulates the utilities, has to host public hearings. They have to hear from the public before they make a decision. Whether they choose to listen to what the public is saying, that's another matter, but they have to hold these public sessions. So we're like, look, there's the official process, but then there's also just getting people involved in whatever way we can. And so November of last year, we launched this campaign called Lights Out on AEP. That's our logo. A local designer did that for us. I'm kind of obsessed with it. So I just want to shout her out, Lydia Stutzman, if you ever need design support. we launched this with a petition that is not an official legal petition. It's an Action Network petition. We have a link to that there. And just to let people know this case is happening, PUCO, there is a government entity that has the power to tell AEP Ohio, no, you cannot charge us more for electricity. Let's go. And so the response has been fantastic. If you click on this link, you'll see that over 2,000 people have signed the petition. Uh, Telling the PUCO not to let AEP Ohio raise rates. You all could sign it now. I would say, this again, this is not a formal legal petition. If you ever come to Central Ohio and you're buying anything, small businesses also have to pass on these costs to all of us as consumers to manage their utility costs. And so we really encourage folks to think big. And I think that's the organizing opportunity here too. It doesn't matter if you're in the city, in the suburb, whatever. We all tend to have in specific regions the same utility providers. So we were really happy with that response on the Action Network petition. We also did neighborhood canvases throughout the different parts of Columbus, different neighborhoods, trying to let people know that the public hearings were going to be happening in December, that they could testify, but at a minimum, sign the petition, stay in touch, and we'll continue to email you and keep you up to date what's going on with this rate case. And then we had the public hearings, like I said, in December. There were two of them. One was at the main library in downtown Columbus. The other was at PUCO's offices. I just included we got great press coverage. That's the other thing. Because of all the data center AI issues, the press is pretty primed to follow this topic. And so without, a ton of organizing, I think everybody, should take away from this too, that there's the opportunity to get that press coverage that can help to do some of the work for you to spread the word about a campaign. So I just included one story there that Channel 4, our local NBC affiliate, did on the public hearing, that first public hearing in particular that Catherine was at. And just blown away. I mean, we heard from some of the folks. Ohio Consumer Council, plays a big role here. They have intervened along with the Ohio Environmental Council in this rate case to oppose it. And we heard from folks that work there that this was the most public engagement they had ever seen. So we were really encouraged by that. And what has AP done in response? Well, they have submitted at the beginning of this year a proposed settlement that they claimed was actually going to lower electricity prices for consumers. So generous of them. That was complete BS. We were very happy to connect with WOSU, our local NPR affiliate, to kind of like get them on the right course because these utilities have a lot of PR, firepower behind them, and so they were completely trying to manipulate this story. They were taking a credit that was already due to consumers based on a change in the federal tax bill, inject it into this rate case and claim that is what was bringing down costs. But if you look at the proposed settlement language, they're like, if you disregard these accounting maneuvers, rates are really still increasing for consumers. So you'll see in this story, WSU was able to kind of like correct the record there. And from here, now again, it's PUCO's call. They have the power in every single rate case to tell utilities no. And that continues to be our ask, that they don't just lower the rate request here, that they deny it altogether because we are in an affordability crisis, because there have been so many rate increases over the last several years. Like, let Ohio consumers kind of like get a handle on that. And the utilities have plenty of money to cover any additional expenses that they need to continue with electricity delivery. So we're not just going to say that, online. We want to like be out and have another public awareness on, the need to push back here and send a strong message to the PUCO. So on January 27th, we'll be outside the PUCO headquarters in downtown Columbus. There's a link here to that rally. And that's also when we will deliver the petitions that I mentioned before, the Action Network petition. So, we'll just print those out. We're going to have some speakers. I think that's the other cool thing, because this is becoming more of like a regional, statewide, national issue. We're excited to include some partners from Cincinnati in that rally, Communities United for Action, if folks are familiar with them. Erica is their lead organizer. She's going to be there with some of their members. Green Workers Alliance, they're starting to organize folks that are installing commercial solar throughout Ohio and on a lot of communities in central Ohio. So they're having an annual meeting. They're going to have some of their workers there. Catherine is going to be speaking on behalf of Common Cause, and the national organization People's Action, which is trying to coordinate a lot of the grassroots organizations that are doing work on utilities. They're going to be rolling out their national policy agenda for taking on utilities at the state level, and they'll have a representative there too. So if anyone finds themselves in Columbus and has time around the noon hour to show up, we welcome you. Just sign up on that link. You'll keep updated on all of that. But moving on from here, I mean, there's just unfortunately, and I think Catherine's update got at this as well. There's just an endless amount to be doing on utilities. We've had people reach out to us like, can we do something on data centers? Can we do something on the gas, utility? And we would love to continue collaborating with folks. And again, it really is a statewide issue. The boundaries on these things don't matter too much. We all are impacted by the decision making at the PUCO, and we have the opportunity to send them a strong message here that people are paying attention and they need to do more. So with that, I'll pause and happy to answer any questions or yeah, Mia, whatever the process
That's
is.
great. That is so great. Thank you so much. And we're excited for the rally on the 27th. And I went to one of the public hearings as well. And I have to say, if you haven't ever been, you should go. It's really interesting. And the address is outside of the PUCO offices. And if you sign up to go to the rally, the address will be there. It's I think it's 180 Broad, but we'll send it to you. Thank you so much, Morgan. We are going to push on. We have actually so many more topics to cover, and I think we will just be real brief about some of them. But there is a lot going on in Ohio. I was just going to do a bit about what's happening with ICE in Ohio right now. I think everyone is aware that, ICE is in Ohio, and they are abducting people and doing all the ICE things that they are, doing. And it's a pretty scary time. And there's a lot of organizing going on around community defense. If you are interested, there are 2 trainings coming up that we put links to there. There are some resources we have there. We also have a little bit of information there. If you just want to get a sense of what is going on in Minneapolis, there's a video to watch and something to read. It's very upsetting, but I really would encourage you to doom scroll a little bit to really know what's happening in Minneapolis, because it's so shocking. It's hard to really believe, but it is happening, and it's happening in Columbus as well, not to that degree, but it could possibly begin to happen to that degree. And I think it is good that people know what's happening. And if you are interested in getting involved, take some training. Make sure that when you're reporting ICE activity, that you're using the salute method to report. Because if you just say there's ICE officers there and people don't know when, and it could be an outdated information, people are going to be chasing around the city trying to figure out, but it's outdated information, or they're actually police and not ICE, and et cetera. So it's really important to give all of this information. And this is hard to remember. So I recommend getting this on your phone so that if you're in a situation where you need to report, you can refer to this graphic, and then put the number to report where you report the activity, put that in your phone as well so that you have that information. But get some training, take a look at some of the resources, know what's going on. Stuff is happening that is truly unbelievable, and I think it's kind of on us to know what's going on. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine. And apologies, there's just a lot to cover right now. I will try to get a better link. Or that link there isn't working. Anyway, Catherine, do you need to unmute? Sorry, I will get you one sec. I would recommend keeping yourself unmuted because this has been, there you go. You should be able to now.
I was, but my cat was demanding to be let out in a
Yeah,
way
no
that I
problem.
thought might be interfering. So sorry about that. I did throw the link to the rally so that you all have that. It's in the chat, and we'll send it, as part of the follow-up. So many of you are aware that the Ohio Elections Commission essentially over years was starved of money, um, basically completely toothless, was not effective, but it was not effective in many ways, kind of intentionally not effective. The Secretary of State promoted and established essentially this integrity unit, and then promoted getting rid of the Elections Commission and creating the Ohio Election Integrity Commission, which had its first meeting on Friday. Um, I think the thing to know about this is, of course, these are the campaign finance kind of violations, will go to this commission, as well as kind of voting irregularities. And so if you imagine when the Secretary of State identifies fraudulent activities, I'm using their words, it will go to this Election Integrity Commission. The thing that was clear about this meeting was that the commissioners had not had a real chance to see the rules that would be guiding their work, and they spent a couple hours tightening the rules and basically coming up with what seemed like very good ways to kind of guide their practice. The chair right now is Justice Terrence O'Donnell. And I was going to say Sandy McNair, who some of you might know from the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections, basically led the way in making changes that created everything from kind of greater transparency to better opportunities for the public to see things. And so we will be following this closely, because, of course, any commission established that is under the purview of somebody who's been a political actor rather than just an elections administrator is important to pay attention to. We'll send follow-up information. The next meeting is not going to be next month. It'll be in March. We don't have a lot of time, but Amanda, you are on. If you'll, Mia, if you could
Oh,
take Amanda
sorry.
off
Yes, I will. I'm sorry. Yep.
off mute.
Amanda, you
This is
should be able to unmute now.
I was going to say, we have had just a ton of things going on. I just wanted to highlight that there continues to be the danger of an Article 5 convention. If you need more information about that, basically it is a convention that could possibly be an attempt to completely rewrite the Constitution. There are all sorts of questions about, well, what could this look like? And they're not, the Article 5 of the US Constitution is so scant. There's no information about how delegates would be selected. You don't know if they could all of a sudden just decide to propose a whole new constitution rather than focusing on amendments. There is a real push from conservatives to do Article 5 conventions. You may have heard of the Convention of States. And so with that, Amanda, do you want to say a few things? I'm really hoping people might be interested in this and participate in kind of a study committee, think about starting a speakers bureau. Amanda, do you want to jump in?
Well, you pretty much summed up what the fears are, and that the whole program, the at least the one for a lot of the amendments that they propose for the federal government is spearheaded by ALEC, which is funded by the Libertarian Koch network. And it's one of the most scary things, and it's a stealth program with lots of lies interspersed in it, because they know most people don't want a federal government that is only going to support like defenses and like police and things like that. They want to get rid of all kind of social safety nets and the like. I don't know how much you want me to say, but hopefully that's enough to scare everybody into wanting to learn more. Um, I am developing a speech. It's about a 15-minute speech, and I'd love to take it on the road. My maiden voyage will be on the 26th with my Dems Club. And hopefully it'll get better and better with time. And I'd love to spread the word about the dangers of a convention of states.
That would be super.
And we really hope that you will consider, being part of a study committee, being part of a speakers bureau about this. I think if this past year at the State House was any indication, there is a real push from national groups to actually get this done. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that Amanda said to me the first time that we spoke about this was that she was surprised at the number of people that came to promote it. There was lots of people came to promote it. And yes, I was there pushing back, and there were a few others. But there is an imbalance when it comes to this at the State House.
Well, that the thing of it is that the the Koch Foundation, I know there's others that are pushing for convention of states. They've been at this since the 70s
Mhm.
and probably even before. So they're way ahead of us on time and they're way ahead of us on money. But we can still push back and maybe we can get the numbers up too. I'd love
Absolutely.
to be on a study group and a speakers bureau.
Well, thank you. And
That's
with that, Mia,
fantastic. And I think if folks are interested, we'll just reply to our follow-up and it'll come to Catherine and we'll get you in touch. The next slide, and it is almost the last one, we are going to share, I think Kelly's going to share it in the chat right now, and we will also send it. We are looking ahead in 2026 and thinking about different topics that we could bring national experts and with our own expertise to do some kind of, really interesting educational webinars, and we really want your input. And so we've asked for you to, I keep clicking on that by mistake. I'm going to just look at this poll here for 1 second. We've asked for you to rank your choices on these different webinar topics. And so you're going to click 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 8, or through 7. And also for these ones as well. And some of them are more Ohio based and some of them are more national democracy based questions. But we really would love your feedback because that's what we want, is to do the things that are most interesting to you. So thank you so much for those of you who have stayed on. We're almost done here, but we really would love your input and we will send this out. Ranked choice voting. Yes, you have ranked choice voting for your webinar topics, and we appreciate that. And then we have, some links to some things that are coming up. There's ongoing calling kind of call hour on the National Common Cause does on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6. We have our every other week Ohio Voter Rights Coalition calls. There's that rally we were talking about. We are doing a Fair Districts huddle on the 11th, where we're going to be updating about the national redistricting situation. And we have a national expert coming to talk about that, which will be really interesting. Next month's Coffee with Common Cause, and then the documenters training. So all of these links will be in the follow-up, and also these slides links will be there. We also included just a list of some interesting articles. Some of them are depressing, some of them are uplifting. That's the world we're living in right now. And we also just added our social media for you guys to follow and share. So I think that is it. Apologies for going a bit over today. We had a lot to cover. We appreciate everybody being here and sticking it out to the end, and we will send all of the things for you afterwards. And Catherine and Kelly, anything else we need to mention?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. One of the things that's clear to me is that there's a lot of work to do. And so pick the thing that, excites you, captures your imagination, that it will make a difference in your community, and every little bit helps. I'm just really glad that we're in this together. And thank you so much for joining us. And then, if you do have suggestions for next time, yes, there's a poll, but also please feel free to send me an email, and we'll see what we can do. We try to include what we can. You'll notice we've invited people. So, if you're like, well, wait a second, I have a pet project. I have something I'm working on. Just let us know about that, and we'll see if we can add it to the agenda. And with that,
Thanks so much.
a big thank you to you all.
See you soon.
Be well. Thank you.